Hey, good evening, everyone, and we'll get started with the show here. Mucho pronto, if you would, I don't know, if you're Española, I don't know. If you're Spreckens Espanol, we will start in the uno momento, por favor. But anyway, we just got some more random stuff to talk about. We got Canadian Libtards to talk about, and then we have some Missouri Libtards who get very upset about soda can art. So, without further ado, let's start the recording, and we shall resume with the Liberty Talk.
The Constitution isn't just a document. It's a blueprint for freedom. We're breaking down politics at every level, exposing government overreach, and going where the mainstream media surely won't. Join us in defending individual rights against the bureaucratic tide. You're listening to the Missouri Liberty Report.
All right, folks, and we are back with another pedal to the metal edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Thanks so much to all of you who continue to watch on YouTube, Rumble, or listen by any podcasting app, or at molibertyradio.us. I have noticed that someone in hold on, because I'm my mind is stuttering right now. I should know this because I've looked at my Spreaker stats. And someone in Iowa, or some people in Iowa, we got somebody in Iowa who's just hammering out the downloads, and just because it catches my eye, because when I look at the stats on downloads, I can look at geolocation and sources and what have you, and so I don't know who's like St. Louis is tops as far as downloads for Missouri, right? So to those of you in St. Louis who are downloading the show, greatly appreciate you. And we've got a massive amount of download numbers from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So if that is you, we greatly appreciate whoever you are as well. And to all the other towns and cities across the United States who are downloading the show and actively listening, greatly appreciate each and every one of you. The funny thing is, Brandon, and to the rest of you, are still, after all the shows, because we did this show with the title, Is Jefferson City as Corrupt as D.C., November 22nd. It is still the most downloaded episode we've done. After everything else we've done, that one is still the top download, which, I mean, that's cool because people, that's something, it seems that people really want to know. So, but anyway, to those of you in those towns across the U.S., we had 4 downloads from Romania. Now, I don't know if that's someone in Romania is downloading or it's somebody using a VPN. It could be a VPN user. But if you live in Romania and you're listening to the Missouri Liberty Report, then we thank you for that, because that's pretty awesome. You live across the ocean and you're listening to a U.S.-based podcast. That's pretty cool. So, again, we appreciate it. If you are a Romanian listening to the show, a tip of the hat to you, ma'am or sir.
Tell all your Romanian friends about us.
That's right, brother.
Sure.
We don't care what your nationality is. If you want liberty and freedom, we're down with that. I mean, that's just something we can all get behind. So let's freaking go, baby. But yeah, we got a couple of stories we want to get into, or a couple of topics. I've got an article. Now, this one's a little bit older. It was updated April 24th. I heard Tom Marks talk about this on his show, and he was on another podcast where he also brought this article up and this topic up because it's so ridiculous. But when it comes to the public full system, we shouldn't be shocked by their behavior. And then Brandon, I wasn't even thinking about talking about this. Luckily, Brandon did. The new Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney. We definitely want to get into that. And what could you think of a more appropriate name for a prime minister whose last name is Carney? So like that whole thing is just a circus. There's just a bunch of weird carnies wandering around. They all have a drug problem, and they're operating rides, and people are just falling to their death, and they're just like, That's our national Canadian pride coming out. Sorry. It's like, you're not supposed to kill people. Like, you can't make an omelet without cracking a few skulls. Like, that's not the saying. It's break a few eggs. Our bad. It's fine. We'll deal with them later. But anyway, so we got those to talk about, and I'm sure there will be other things. If we're good at one thing in this show, it is segueing. Sometimes way off road, but we're still good at segueing. So let's deal with the Missouri one first, because this will be shorter compared to the Canadian Carnival. Maybe that's what I should just titled the show, Canadian Carnies. I don't even remember I think I called it like Canadian Libtards or something. So anyway, this is from April 24th. This is from the Kansas City Star, written by Jennifer Rodriguez. And the title of the article is Teen Glues Soda Cans Together to Resemble Rifle and Gets Suspended, Missouri Suit Says. So the mother of a teen in Missouri is suing after she says her son was suspended from school for posting a photo online of soda cans glued together in the shape of a rifle. The lawsuit was filed April 10th against the Mountain View Birch Tree R3 School District. The school district is aware of the lawsuit that was recently filed. Unfortunately, because the lawsuit involves a student, we are significantly limited in what we are legally permitted to share publicly. For now, we can only say that we have legal counsel who will present our side of the story and defend against these allegations. On September 14th, a 13-year-old boy posted a photo on Snapchat of Dr. Pepper cans glued together in the shape of a rifle. According to the lawsuit, the cans were glued together as part of a non-threatening creative art project, the civil complaint said. The teen was at home using his own personal device when he glued the cans together and posted the photo, the complaint said. The next day, the principal at the student's school got a call from someone about the Snapchat photo. The principal called the student's mom and told her the student would need to be searched the next school day before he could enter. The next morning, the student and his mom went to school, and a meeting was held in which the superintendent said the Snapchat post brought fear to other students.
Okay. I gotta stop you right there for just a second. Can we talk about how soft you have to be? Just how like sheltered and afraid you are. That some other kid posted a picture. It doesn't matter what the soda cans were shaped like. Pictures of soda cans. Unless the soda cans were like, I'm gonna kill you, John. Then there's no way you could possibly interpret. I mean, unless there was a second message. Like if the fact that you can just post the soda cans and someone would be afraid of the cans. That's insane, right? I mean, that's unbelievably soft behavior by whoever got offended and whoever convinced their parents to complain to the school about it. You're soft. I just want to tell you right now, if you're listening, you're a soft human being.
I mean, you want to talk about the true definition of a snowflake. These people on the left get really butthurt about this when you call them snowflakes, but when you feel threatened because someone made art in the shape of a rifle out of Dr. Pepper cans, I wish I could say the word that sprang to mind at this moment, but because we go out on the radio, I can't. But you're a big old wuss. I'll radio friendly it. You're a big old sissy pants, okay?
I cut you off too early. The next paragraph is perfect for what we were talking about.
So, yeah, okay. The mom asked how Dr. Pepper cans, regardless of how they are arranged, were threatening, and that she had witnessed school officials and others post pictures of actual firearms held by adults and school-age children, and the same were not considered threats by the school district, the complaint said. The Snapchat post didn't have any threatening messages and didn't mention the school district, or any other students. I get there's a lot of concern with all the school shooting in this world. However, my children have no access to our guns or weapons The student's mom wrote in a Facebook post about the incident. The student was suspended for 3 days, according to the complaint. This was the student's first offense of, oh my God, cyberbullying, the lawsuit said.
Cyberbullying.
The lawsuit said the suspension could impair his ability to gain admission to top colleges and universities because schools assess applicants' academic and disciplinary records. The incident also resulted in the student losing friendships and false rumors that he threatened violence against the school, the lawsuit said. He now suffers from anxiety and is seeking counseling. The lawsuit is asking for an undetermined amount in damages.
Okay. So I'm pretty sure. Maybe I'm wrong. But I doubt that this kid is suffering from massive amounts of anxiety over this. I remember any time I didn't have to go to school, whether it was for being punished or just not having to go. I was stoked. So I don't know. The fact that this 13-year-old kid stayed home from school for 3 days suffers from all this anxiety and seeking counseling. Sounds like they're just saying that for the lawsuit, because I'm sure the emotional damages are worth more money. But one thing that really, so when we were talking about this before the show started, I didn't look into this. I'd seen it. Click on it because I didn't think it was from Missouri. I didn't see that it was a Missouri thing. But one I thought when we were talking about this earlier that he brought the soda can art to school, or that he made it at school. So in my head I'm like, okay, still soft. Like my dad's generation, they had shotguns in their trucks, and everyone did, because he went to a rural school out like pretty far out there, and so everyone just had. It wasn't unusual for someone to have a rifle or a shotgun just in the truck if they were going to go hunting after school, or just a lot of people had it. So I thought it was soft that they were suspending him for the soda cans at school. But the fact that he made this at home and just posted the picture got him 3 days suspended is just so crazy. It's like I was saying before the show too. I think the underlying message here, which the mom brings up a good point too, is that adults and other school-age kids had actual guns and pictures on social media all the time. I know I did for sure, because my guns were in my picture when I posted pictures of deer I'd kill. So my guns are for sure. I'm sure if you, well, maybe not anymore, but you probably could have went on my Facebook a while back and seen pictures of me with my deer. So I don't know. This just, it's stunning. Blows my mind. This whole story is crazy.
No, it is. It's really, really bad. It's really stupid. Everybody's saying there's an echo from you, Brandon. I don't know. Let me see if I can. Okay.
I turned my mic down a little. Did that help? It could have been turned up too high.
Let me mute that. Everybody, while Brandon's talking, see if the echo has stopped. Let me know. I think I had you coming through the desktop and the NDI, so I need to see which one is causing the echo. So anybody out there listening, if you can tell me if there's still an echo with Brandon before we go on any farther. So, Brandon, go ahead, say something. Okay. I feel really stupid.
Another point I had to this is that part of me feels like some of this is just like anti-gun culture, or like it's not like everything can be turned into like an argue. It's, to me, feels like this has some anti-gun tone to it, that like some people in the district maybe were trying to like weasel their anti-gun policies into, like, when they punished this kid, they were thinking, well, this is our message against guns in general, which is, part of the culture war we're dealing with nowadays, where, we had the Florida State school shooting. I'm not saying school shootings don't happen, but your response can't be take away guns from every lawful gun owner. It's not what our country was founded on, a violation of the Second Amendment.
Yeah, okay, now the echo's gone. I had you feeding through twice on the in the audio settings. I didn't pay attention, and I had you coming through desktop and NDI, and I was like, well, that's definitely a problem. So anyway, now that problem's solved, and I can now I can concentrate, and thanks for filling in there because I was. But yeah, this is just, and you're right. When we're talking about when we're talking about, oh, he's got anxiety now and all these other. Now, I'm sure as a kid, if people are going around saying, "Oh, you're threatening school," he's probably freaking out a little bit, and I'm sure some of that anxiety feeds off the anxiety of his parents, because when your parents are anxious or upset, and you're a kid, you get upset. So the anxiety that his parents have over the situation, and then the kid hears all this stuff, that probably does make him anxious. Here's the thing, okay? So I'm assuming from the lawsuit, right? They're suing the school district, and I understand why. Okay, I get it. The thing that I wish these people wouldn't do is sue the school district, because where does the school district get their money? From the taxpayers. I wish they would just independently sue the superintendent themselves, right? Or sue the principal themselves, not sue the whole school district, because if they win the lawsuit, they're taking taxpayer dollars. And so the superintendent and the principal, they don't take any financial hit from this. So I wish that when people did this, they think of a school district and they're like, "Oh, I get it," right? Like, these people suck. Okay, remember this next time any type of elections come around, you want to put pressure to change the leadership at the school, or I don't know, maybe pull your kid out of public school altogether. There's another very valid thing, logical thing you could do there. But if you're going to continue to put your kid in a public school, you have to expect stupidity like this. But that should bring a lot of parents together to focus on this superintendent needs to go. But again, in my humble opinion, I think you should sue the individuals, because then if you hit their pocketbook, well, see, that's a whole different story. Before they jump to these stupid decisions again, they have to think about it. But again, if you sue the school district, if I could talk here, but if you sue the school district, they take no financial hit unless the school board gets angry enough and says, "You got to go," which they probably won't. They probably are high-fiving him for his decision. So they would shelter him. So that would be, if I had two pieces of advice for this woman: A, take your kid out of public school system; B, sue the superintendent directly, because apparently he made the decision to do this. They're calling it cyberbullying and all this. Sue him. And I mean, honestly, if they're claiming it's cyberbullying, and you could, I don't know, maybe they could consider that slandering a little kid. Go after him for slander or libel, whatever. I don't know. But years ago, we had a city marshal come in. He fired 2 or 3 officers like pretty quickly, and they all turned around and sued the city, and they all won. But it's like, yeah, you just should have sued the city marshal, because the taxpayers of Owensville had to foot that bill, because we, in essence, pay the insurance that paid that lawsuit money out. I mean, they just basically, the city's insurance is going to cover that lawsuit damages. They're going to pay the damages. But that city marshal, he didn't feel any effect of that. Hell, he was reelected I don't know how many times, and he finally decided to retire out or quit, and then we got a much better city marshal now. But yeah, please, just for the love of God, go just sue the individual. That's my biggest thing. I understand the mentality there. You're mad, you're upset, your kid did nothing wrong. Libtards come out of their closets, literally and figuratively, and are out from under their rocks, and they're like, "Oh, it's a gun." Come on, man. I'm sorry. When I was a lot younger, I made a bong out of a 20-ounce Dr. Pepper bottle. What if I posted that online? Could somebody's like, "Oh my God, I got high from looking at the photo, I'm suing you," or something? No,
You're cyberbullying the kids that can't afford the weed, John.
Is that what I was doing?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
man.
If you can't afford weed, then that's cyberbullying to them.
Yeah, they're like, this is how broke I am. I had to make my bong out of a 20-ounce Dr. Pepper bottle because I couldn't afford a real one. So, but anyway, yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's freaking hilarious, this stuff. But, yeah, again, this is what you get out of public schools.
Yeah. Don't you wish that even small towns had like 3 or 4 different options?
Yeah.
Where schools at most maybe had like 100 kids, where, 3 or 4 different options, and then they would be competing to make their products and services as effective and as good as they can, while also trying to provide it as cheap as possible. Wouldn't that just be a crazy concept, like literally every other business and service in the entire world has to deal with, called supply, demand, and competition? I mean, what a crazy concept, John.
That's the thing too that really gets me is, yeah, we definitely would like to see competition, but who doesn't want to see the competition? And it's a public school system, because they know that if other schools were allowed to open up and do their thing and could had more control over the curriculum and the kids tested higher and learned more, they'd be out of a job real quick. So government is going to do what it does best, and that is create a monopoly, or try to. I mean, you do have private schools out there, but they are doing their darndest to create a monopoly when it comes to education in this country. And, man, they will fight tooth and nail. And, you get in these big cities like Chicago with their teachers' unions, and oh my God, they just handcuff the school districts. I don't know how many times over the last decade those teacher unions in Chicago have been on strike. And they go to start the school year, and they can't start the school year because, the teachers are on strike again. And now what? What's the average salary up there? $100,000, I believe, is what they make as teachers in Chicago. Something to that effect. I'm pretty sure they're at the 6-figure mark now.
Well, it's all Randy. It's, Randy Weingarten. I can't remember which one of the lobbies, which one of the unions she's in charge of, but she was making crazy demands during COVID.
Oh, yeah.
About like when the kids could return to school. It was like every single kid needed to be vaccinated. I don't know exactly what it was, but they were just, and Chicago was a big one. Like you said, the bigger the city, the more of a stranglehold that the teachers unions have. And they wanted outrageous demands to reopen schools during COVID, like pay increases, and just like 3-day work weeks, and just craziness.
Let's see if we can look it up, because since we're here, let's see. So she is the American Federations of Teachers president, Randy Weingarten, testifies to uncommon influence over CDC. That's just her testifying that she had. Let's see.
So here's what I found. Right now, it says that the average salary for a Chicago public school teacher is $66,007, which is 19% higher than the national average. However, the average salary is expected to increase to over $114,000 by the 2027-2028 school year due to a new teachers union contract. So yeah, $115,000. Summer's off too, by the way.
Yeah.
No, but I'll look it up too, see if I can find something on. But I remember their demands were insane.
Yeah, so let's see. Weingarten now this is from May 13th of 2021. So this is 10 points, or 10 things laid out, or 10 laid out ideas that she had, backed by real-world models to match rhetoric with reality and fulfill the speech's practical promise. Launch a $5 million Back to School for Everyone national campaign to connect not just with teachers and school staff, but also with families and communities to communicate the importance of in-school learning. Form school-based committees of staff, parents, and where appropriate, students plan for and respond to safety issues. Align health and pedagogical best practices, whatever that is, by reducing class sizes to reflect the CDC's 3-foot social distancing guidance. Eliminate simultaneous in-person and remote instruction. Designate office hours and clinics for AFT affiliates and others to call in to discuss ideas. Roll out recovery programs this summer that provide academic support. Promote community schools to build trust and remove obstacles to getting kids and families the support and services they need. Increase the emphasis on civics, science, and project-based learning to nurture critical thinking. Yeah, right. Commit funds from the American Rescue Plan to fill shortages of teachers, school counselors, psychologists, and nurses. Encourage Education Secretary Miguel Cardona to form a task force to rethink how we assess. Wait a minute, I just lost my place here. Assess student learning, how to measure what really counts. And engage stakeholders, families, educators, and community partners to ensure funds in the American Rescue Plan and other federal funds for schools are spent equitably and effectively. Get the hell out of here. But yeah, there was a time where, wasn't she like hanging out somewhere? Wasn't she out of the country on vacation? And you had teachers that were out of the country on vacation bragging about how they were vacationing somewhere in the Caribbean and not anywhere in the state, but didn't want to go back to the classroom because they felt a threat or they felt unsafe. So there was a lot of ridiculous things that Randy Weingarten did during COVID. Well, I mean, she's been doing ridiculous things. So Tom says starting salary in Chi-Town is $60,000. But yeah, I know those teachers are up. If they're in teachers unions,
so this was really published. It was a 17-page report listing the United Teachers of Los Angeles. This was their 17-page recommendation for restarting in-person learning.
Okay.
They said, this is a quote: "The COVID-19 pandemic in the United States underscores the deep equity and justice challenges arising from our profoundly racist, intensely unequal society. Unlike other countries that recognize protecting lives as the key to protecting livelihoods, the United States has chosen to prioritize profits over people." Dun, dun, dun. The UTLA's requirements for restarting schools included core progressive policies, 100% testing of symptomatic individuals, decreasing or stable infection and hospital rates for Los Angeles County for 14 days, paid sick leave for parents with symptomatic children at home, class sizes of no more than 12 students, a nurse in every school, no standardized tests, at least 500 billion in federal support, Medicare for all, the passage of the Union-Backed Schools and Locals Communities Funding Act, a wealth tax, a millionaire tax, defunding the police, and a charter school moratorium. I mean,
yep. That's
the
stuff I was looking for, because the other stuff that I read didn't sound as bad as what they're. Yeah, so I'm looking at. So it says that this is Illinois policy. Chicago Teachers Union contract bumps average teacher from $86K to over $114,000 by the 27-28 school year. Just the raises will cost Chicagoans up to $1.25 billion. That's just teachers' salaries, over $1 billion. So
I for all of the people out there cheering on teachers getting paid more, I'm not going to say I know the exact scale of like fair and balanced, but I know for sure that these schools have almost zero accountability for bad teachers.
yeah,
Like it's incredible how like they said they want to get rid of standardized testing. Oh, you mean the part where we figure out what the kids learned? I mean, that's insane.
yeah. You know, the thing is too, John Stossel had a video one time on the teachers unions in New York, right? So let's say a teacher in New York City got in trouble, right? And they weren't allowed to teach in a class. They were just put into an empty schoolroom, hanging out with all the other teachers that possibly could be looking at being fired, still getting their pay, not suspended, sitting at home. They were just sitting in a classroom, an empty classroom, hanging out with all the other teachers that were under disciplinary review because they couldn't be laid off without pay. Because of the contract, they got to go into a room, hang out, drink coffee, do all this other stuff, not be doing their job, still getting their paycheck. So
it was like a breakfast club of teachers.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like, oh, we got our own diner here. You know, we got our own like little diner here in the school. We can sit here and drink coffee and eat donuts. And yeah, they weren't doing anything productive.
There's one guy sitting at a corner table. What are you in for?
Yeah, he probably was. He's probably smoking a joint too. And it's like somebody's like, is there a skunk? Oh, don't worry, kids. They found a skunk in the hall. It smells going to be here for a little while, but they'll get rid of it. But yeah, that's just listen, again, I was a UAW member for 10 years ish, right? Almost 10 years. And so when I talk about this stuff, some people might, well, you're being hypocritical. I mentioned a fellow union member many years ago. I was only probably a couple years into working there. And I said, I don't understand why the unions don't start backing like the Libertarian Party. You know, and she's like, well, it's because they don't like public union. They don't like public unions. And I go, I don't like public unions either. I was like, anytime if someone's making their pay comes from taxpayer money, no, I don't want them to be in a union. I don't get to bargain with these people. You know, like in Chicago, the mayor and his staff or her staff negotiate with the unions or somebody up in the city government. The taxpayers don't get a say. They don't get to dictate how the money they pay to that city goes to fund the teachers' salaries. We don't get any say in that at all. So no, I don't like police unions. I don't like teachers unions or firefighters unions. I don't like any of those because the taxpayers, where the money is coming from, property taxes, what have you, they're paying to fund those salaries, and yet at the end of the day, they have no say-so at the negotiating table. It is people from the city negotiating with the people from the union, but the people who are actually funding their pay don't get any input. And that, to me, is just another form of theft.
Well, it's not even that. It's that a large portion of the people in the union are going to be voting for the mayor also. And then, like I talk about this all the time on this show, but it's just another one of those things where, like, if you don't support all teachers making over $100,000 a year, well, then you hate teachers. That's how they get you too. Is they're like, oh, you're not on the side of the teachers, you must hate teachers. Like, no, I just think at a certain point we're giving you an unreasonable amount of money. And then I don't remember if I brought this up on this show or not, but for all of the people out there who think that money is going to solve your school problems every time, look at LeBron James's I Promise School. There's a reason people don't talk about that in the media a whole lot. They did when he first built it because he was feuding with Donald Trump at the time. and it looked really bad on Donald Trump because like he just opened up his own private sort of. It's like part of the Akron, Ohio's public school system, but it's for I think like elementary school up to 8th grade kids to like they go there, especially from like underprivileged areas, and that school has more money and resources than you could possibly imagine. Again, sponsored by one of the richest athletes on the planet, LeBron James, as like his baby. Like, oh, I've created this I Promise school, was the face of it for a little while. And I recommend everyone at home, because I don't want to butcher the stats exactly, but I think it's performing worse than the other public schools in Akron, and as like had every single advantage that these other schools didn't have during COVID. So there's no excuse. Like throwing money at a problem is not going to solve your education issues. And so,
I mean,
go on.
It is LeBron James. So I'm not a huge basketball fan. I used to watch basketball when like Magic Johnson and Kareem and Jordan and some of those guys played. That was like the heyday of the NBA, and you saw raw talent and teamwork and some amazing athletes. LeBron James is a diva. He's a flopper. He just announces that he's the best, and then Michael Jordan's former teammate Scottie Pippen says if you have to keep repeating that you're the king, you're probably not. What's interesting about LeBron James is there was a player in the league at one time who put something on his shoes about what was going on in China. And the NBA and his team owner and everybody jumped all over him. Like, you can't wear that on your shoes. You can't have that on your shoes because a lot of people in China buy a lot of NBA gear. And then LeBron James was all part of the Black Lives Matter and all this stuff. But as far as the sweatshops making his, a bunch of his stuff that he makes billions of dollars in revenue on, he was rather quiet. There's crickets on that part. He didn't want to mention the Chinese folks making pennies on the dollar, making his shoes and his jerseys and everything else. Not going to say nothing bad about the Chinese government. But Black Lives Matter, he was all over that. And let's see. And then Catherine says, I spend less than $300 a year on my child's education. At least quadruple that amount is stolen from me to indoctrinate other people's children. Yeah. Here's an again, I guess this wouldn't be constitutional. Before I would say they're proposing a bill, it wouldn't be constitutional because it wouldn't affect everyone equally across the board. I also kind of wouldn't get mad if someone wrote a bill that said if you don't have kids actively in school, that you don't have to pay, that portion of the money in your personal property tax that would go to school, you just don't have to pay it because you don't have a kid enrolled in that school. So I don't know if that'd be necessarily constitutional or not, but I would have a hard time getting angry at that just because. And can you imagine if you even proposed a bill like that? The outrage, like teachers and school board members and people, all the public school tools out there, they would come out of the woodwork. It would be like, some guy with like the guys in India that play the flute and like the snake charmers. They would be like doo-loo-loo-loo, and they would just have a bunch of snakes from the public schools like following them up to the Capitol, and you just hear hissing. Like who released all the snakes? Like, oh, that's just public school officials who are angry. They might not get all their funding. Again, not necessarily a constitutional bill. I would like to propose it just to see the virtue signaling and the outrage from the idiot brigade that would ensue afterwards. I could just sit back and be like, haha, that was my bill, and look at them all weeping openly and crying and trying to make it sound like it's the end of the freaking world because they don't get all their funding. But, I'm sitting here, my kids have all graduated, they're out of school, and I'm sitting here thinking, I don't really want to fund a bunch of this stupidity that's even in our school district, which is way milder than a lot of the other schools an hour or so east, west, south, or north of me. But I don't even want to fund this crap anymore because every time I turn around, I'm surprised this last ballot they didn't try to push the school bond again. I have a feeling within another year or two they're going to try to pass another school bond, except that I was told that my representative in the House told somebody that they would help them figure out a way to word it better so that people would vote for it. I'm like, that guy. And right there, if I'd have had the time and the energy and the resources, that was at the time. It was too close when I found out about it to try to primary him and see if I could just get him booted out. And that was going to be one of the things that I was going to run on. Like, I've heard that this gentleman right here wants to change ballot language in a local town to try to trick people into voting for a school bond increase when it's been voted down, 2 times. Do we want a, big fat liar in office like that? But I didn't have the time nor the resources to jump in there and file to try to primary him out. But that is the closest I've been in a long time to running for state office is when I found that out. I was like, okay, dude, now we got problems. But he's I don't. He just plays the political winds and he's freaking you. He's a nice enough guy, but nice guys, that doesn't do anything for my liberty. Being a nice guy doesn't necessarily mean I have somebody looking out for my best interest and voting as constitutionally as they can. And the only bills they push across is something for conservation, and that's about some Rock Island trail or something. Other than that, that's all the bills you can get out. We gotta put a bill in for for invasive plant species so people can't sell them here and bring them here. And it's like, well, we got bigger fish to fry than invasive plant species.
Right.
Come on.
And like you said, it's not even necessarily that he's writing. It's not that he's not passing any bills. It's that the ones he's championed and taken the time are so small potatoes. And it's not like he's out here voting no on a bunch of unconstitutional bills. It's not like he's spending his whole time defending your rights from bad bills either. I'm sure that's not the case. I've seen the voting record.
Yeah, he is definitely not. I have a nickname for him, but I'm afraid to say it over the radio because it's so close to cursing and it's not really cursing, so I'm not going to say it. But if you just say the word AH, you put that together, and then you just put an S in front of it because his name is Sassman, so it'd be Sass.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's my nickname for him. I'm saying it without saying it. So everybody's picking up what I'm putting down, and we're all good. The whole LeBron James thing, not one, I promise, 8th grader has ever passed Ohio's math test and English, and science scores are dismal.
Yeah.
Oh, God. LeBron James is flopping in another area. Now, I get it. He's giving this money out. He's probably got other people overlooking it. The dude has probably a million business ventures that he's in on, and I'm sure he hires people that he thinks are the best and puts them in places to run certain business ventures because he, when you are an active athlete, you don't have time to just sit down and be like, oh, I got to do all these business meetings a day if you're doing all this. But I would hope that he'd see this and go, why did I dump this much money in and it's failing? Or is this just a way of one of those things like pretending to give back to the community, but not, and hoping no one notices that your school that you created is just as bad or worse than the public schools are? I don't know.
Well, you would think that one of two things to what you just said. Either he would hire, like, if you're just gonna treat this as another one of your ventures, you would think you would do a much better job vetting of putting people in charge who know what they're doing. Like, you would get the top educators and you'd have everything at your disposal. And I'm not even saying he doesn't. He might have gathered the best teachers in the state of Ohio, but they just couldn't get the job done with the resources. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes when a student is failing in school, it has nothing to do with the teacher, has nothing to do with the school district, has to do with what the child is dealing with at home or another area of their life. Could have nothing to do with the school. And so this one, my whole point was just that, like, you can't just put money into it. And then also, like, you're right, a lot of athletes have different charities and different ventures and they can't monitor them closely. But at the time, he made this like it was like his project. Like, he was the face of it. So you would think that you would be giving this more attention, like you said. If not a single 8th grader can pass in math and English and science, or at the standard level, and science and English scores are abysmal. Like, you got to do something. Like I said, they were the ones they have all this technology, so they were the ones who should have been ahead of the ball on COVID. Like, when COVID hit, they even said in one article I've read that school was like one of the only schools actually equipped and ready to go because they had all the technology available. They could give out tablets or laptops or MacBooks or whatever to all these kids, and they could, not MacBooks, Chromebooks. They could give out like Chromebooks and all these other things to these kids and actually, like, not necessarily be on track, but not fall nearly as hard as they did. So, yeah, like again, my main point being is that you cannot just throw a bunch of money and expect schools to just get better. It's never that hasn't happened, and this is one of the biggest examples of that very much not happening.
Yeah, it's I would be embarrassed to say the least, and I'd have to, you'd think you'd be like, oh, we gotta do something here to protect our good name here. But that's LeBron James. He's just a big old diva crybaby. He may be a great athlete and everything else, but he's also kind of a douche canoe. Well, not kind of. He is. If that dude buys, I bet every boat that he buys, or has bought, someone should, a very good painter, go out and just put Massengill down the side of every seagoing vessel he has. And they're like, what's that? And like, oh, that's LeBron James's douche canoe right there. It's like, how many of those douche canoes does he have? A lot. His nickname is Captain Massengill. So, sometimes they call him Sammy Summer's Eve, but whatever. He is out there in his douche canoe, sailing about the nice deep blue sea. All right.
Well, so what's more embarrassing? LeBron James's school being one of the worst performing schools in Ohio, or Canada just voted in another Liberal Party prime minister? I will say I'm pretty sure it's the guy who took over for Trudeau a month or two ago, and he just got elected, really, to the spot instead of given the spot. But boy.
So, yeah, Mark, again, you couldn't have a better last name for a guy like this than Carney. It just, that's the thing, folks. Like, that's a joke to a lot, especially when you live in a small town and you have your little county fairs come through and you always talk about the weird carnies that travel with the, not all of them are weird, but let's face it, there's some weirdos in the bunch. There's a reason they're working for the carnival, okay? Because some of them can't get a job anywhere else because of dumb things they've possibly done. Maybe not, but it's a joke that a lot of us have made about carnies. And this guy's last name is Carney. So that brings to mind, oh, well, what's this guy going to do? Is Canada going to turn it? Well, it already is kind of a three-ring circus. Are they just going to have bears coming through and just mauling people now? Like, oh, sorry, we thought that guy was a trainer. Like, he just started today. Well, he's a Canadian. He should know how to handle bears. Bears are everywhere. It's like, no, that's not how it works, sir. That one had rabies. Oh, we thought he ate an Alka-Seltzer. Like, it's just, anything stupid they do, they're just going to, Trudeau, he was really proud to announce that he was, how do you put it? Where is there's, I lost my mouse cursor. I'm like, where'd my mouse cursor go? I sound like a guy with Alzheimer's sometimes. I lose the mouse cursor, and I'm like, where'd it go? But anyway, he's like, I am a proud feminist. I'm like, well, I don't know that I would brag about that. That seems like something I mean, unless all your liberal supporters are going to, clap like retarded seals, but the rest of us are like, I don't know why you'd be so, I don't know why you admit that in public.
Plus, what that means nowadays. 20 years ago, being a proud feminist meant you probably annoyed people, but you probably actually stood for women's rights. But in 2020, and in the last 5-6 years, maybe, that term, like proud feminist, means you stand with men pretending to be women.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the new wave feminism is, really. It has nothing to do with protecting a woman's. In fact, you will hinder a woman's ability to have fair competition in sports. That's usually what a proud feminist in 2025 means. So
yeah, and also you will not ever talk about women, the suffering that women go through in Middle Eastern countries. You also won't talk about that either. All the things they won't talk about that would really be beneficial to like women's like natural rights across the world. No, we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, where was Trudeau? You think Trudeau was very vocal about China's one child policy? You think he had anything to say about that?
That was his wet dream, I'm sure. He seems like a eugenicist. Well, I mean, they kind of have to be. That country literally has a policy now where if you're a veteran and you're suffering from some type of debilitating injury or illness, they'll offer you a pod to lay down in where you can off yourself because you're a burden to the medical system. So, yeah. Totally a total eugenicist. He's probably like, I mean, he seemed to be a big fan of Castro. Isn't it thought that like he's Castro's love child or something? I don't know. I've seen so many things tying him to Fidel Castro. It's not even funny. But yeah, he's no one with any sensibility or people that use both lobes of their brain, none of those people are sad to see that gentleman gone. It's all the people who can't think for themselves. And now I would say the same thing if Trudeau had been more conservative and did a bunch of dumb things and all his people were like, ugh. I would say the same thing. But he was a loony lefty. We saw what he did during those trucker protests. I mean, he like seized people's, he froze their bank accounts. He ended all the funding that was going to the truckers. He did all these things. His horrible COVID policy.
He pinned a medal on the Nazi.
Yes, pinned a medal. He did blackface, which he skated right by on the blackface. If you would have been a conservative, you would have just had to have retired or resigned your post because you're a racist. But if Trudeau comes out in blackface, he
tried to say it wasn't him too. Like there's a picture of him. This is a classic, like, can't believe your own eyes and ears. Trust what the government says. Don't believe your own eyes and ears. Because we all saw a picture of him, and he goes, I didn't do blackface. They're like, this isn't you. I don't know. That guy has dark skin. Clearly, that's not me. That couldn't have been me.
My makeup artists are never that good. I can't mimic black people that well. But, that's the thing with us. Like our liberals in this country and Canadian liberals, and liberals of Europe, they're all very much alike in their rhetoric. And I would love to go to a liberal convention or a progressive convention and just hang out for a day or two and see how long it takes them to get things done, like a meeting, because there's probably people talking about what triggers them and this offended them and that offends them. And it probably takes them 3 hours to get to official business because they have to like tiptoe around everyone's feelings and make sure they don't say anything offensive and check a bunch of progressive boxes before.
Well, what you do, I'm pretty sure officially what you'd have to do is go around everyone around the room and get their pronouns. And
you would have to do that. Yeah,
of course. Well,
yes.
of course.
Or you'd have to make sure their name tag had the proper pronouns, and then
Of
you'd
course.
have to ask before you spoke, I'm sorry, what are your pronouns before I, do I he, him, they, them, Caesar. I, it must. So again, for us normal folks who just want to be left alone, if we were stuck in a meeting like that, we'd probably have to go straight from there to a mental facility or get blackout drunk just to try to forget what you saw. Like, either dope me up or let me drink myself into oblivion, because I can't believe what I just sat through for a day or two. And here's the thing. I think if we had real enemies that, like, say someone literally attacked the United States, a small army tried to attack, and we captured a bunch of those people, instead of waterboarding them or doing the other things we did in these black sites or these Abu Ghraib and some of these other prisons in Iraq and Afghanistan, we just make them go to like a socialist like meeting and like sit there, tie them to a chair, duct tape their mouth, and say, now you're going to sit here until you give us the information. I would say within an hour or two, they're going to cave. Because
So
even for a terrorist, it's like it's too much.
What I'm thinking then is it would have to be like the student body meeting of a super liberal university.
Yes.
That's what I'm thinking.
Like
they just
Harvard.
have to sit through the whole student body. Yeah, like a Harvard student body meeting. Just sit through the whole thing uninterrupted. Can't get up. No headphones. We'll even tape their eyes open.
Yeah.
They can't even close their eyes.
Yeah, they put the toothpicks in their eyelids and prop them open. And they're sitting there rocking their chair, sweating profusely, turning beet red. And they're like, I think he wants to talk now. And they just wheel him out of the room.
I'll say whatever. Just let me leave.
I'll tell you who's responsible. Get me out of this freaking room. Oh, yeah, that would be, that might be, I don't really ever want to talk to people from the Defense Department because those people are frightening to me, but that's one suggestion I would give them. Like, hey, if you actually catch a terrorist, they were, and you didn't entrap them or fund them, like they were literally going to do some evil stuff.
Whoa! I think we pretty much caught.
We
hit
probably
100%
eliminated
at that point.
All offenders.
Yeah. We've either funded them or at some point we've done it. So yeah.
So maybe that 1 out of a billion that actually is just straight up evil and they do it themselves, and then we just stick them in a student meeting at the Harvard campus and see how long it takes them to crack. I tell you, for me, I don't know, dude. I don't know. To me, it'll almost be funny. Like I'd almost get a kick out of just listening to them, because then in my brain, because the way my brain functions as I'm watching these people interact, my mind is making up movies at the same time. So I'm thinking about alternate endings to the conversation and all these things. So I don't know. I might be able to write a whole script for a comedy just sitting in there and listening to it. So I might be able to use it for creative purposes, but I also might come out of there brain damage. So I'm like, I have to weigh my options carefully before I stepped into the room and try to camouflage myself as someone who's nanarded, as Thomas Massey would say.
Well, I mean, if you just watch Am I Racist by Matt Walsh, that really just encapsulates everything that we've been talking about. Like a lecture from some of the people that were in his film be the same thing, where you just got to sit around and talk about how your racist subconscious, rules the universe, and you just got to apologize, profusely to intersectionalities. No, quite but of course.
Yeah. It would be, I don't know. It would be kind of fun to just sit in there and go, oh, this is how, this is what a room full of really ignorant people sound like. Like this is literally a room full of people who have no original thoughts. Like, oh my God. And then you could almost like, I don't know. I feel like you could come out of there. You could make a statement like, oh yeah, let's see. I bet that how would I put it? I bet this is what feeling drunk 24 hours a day feels like. And everyone's like, huh? Like, you're just mumbling gibberish. You can't think. You probably couldn't even drive here. You probably had to ride a bus because you're too dumb to get a driver's license and operate a motor vehicle. This is probably what feeling drunk. This is probably what it feels like to be drunk all day, every day. I bet this is what it's like. The hate looks you would get would be funny, but the reaction, like, he thinks we're all drunk. Like, no, I'm not saying you're drunk. I'm saying you're acting drunk.
Right.
Like, I don't think you should.
Like, if we got a room full of drunk people together, we'd have the same level of intellectual conversation.
Yes, and then
right now as a room full of drunks.
But they would be more amusing than you guys are, because at least
absolutely,
they're trying to have fun. And you guys just come in and pee in everybody's bowl of Cheerios and act like you've done us a favor.
At least with the drunks, we could just get a karaoke machine and we'd have a great time.
Yeah, dude.
But you get a karaoke machine around a bunch of at a Harvard school student body meeting. That's not going to be any fun.
Yeah, no, they'll probably get up and say, "I know this." They'd be afraid to sing anything that's not white because they'd feel like they were appropriating someone else's culture. So they'd have to be very selective about the songs they sang. But you do it in a room full of drunk people, and now you have the majority to think that they're like, if they're females, are like Adele, and the males think they're like, I don't know, like Frank Sinatra. And all it does is sounds like dying cats and dogs, because half of them can't hit. They lose their tonality. They can't match pitches, and it just sounds like a room full of people are getting the crap kicked out of them because they're trying to hit a high note because they think they're awesome. So
we'll hear "Sweet Caroline" in there somewhere.
Yes, I will. Yeah, I will say this. I used to have a somewhat okay singing voice, and I've lost it over the years. It used to be a bar in town. They would do like karaoke night like once a month. I don't know how many times I went there. Now, my secret, I would never get up there. Now, I wasn't ever drunk when I went up on stage. I didn't do that. But I was always have to have at least one Jack and Coke in me just to like take the tension out of my nerves, and then I would go up and sing. And like me and one other guy got up and sang, believe it or not, of all the music that I listened to, he and I got up and sang a Garth Brooks song. And the whatever outfit they had running the karaoke thing, like we got done, I went back and sat down. We sat back down at our booth, and the guy was like, "I think that's the best rendition of Friends in Low Places I've ever heard." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I can't even sing that good. Like this must be one of the most sung songs, and the people that sing it must be absolutely horrific." But anyway, let's get back to this. Or I'll just keep going on and on. Do you
want to pull up the Canada Strong?
Yes, I've got that up. Yep.
That PDF pulled up. Dude,
yep.
The first sentence is a lie. It says Canada is the best country in the world. Starting off with a lie. Our sovereignty is under threat. America's unjustified trade war is an attempt to weaken us. Feel how you will about the tariffs, but for them to just call it an unjustified trade war, what is that? I mean, I wish they would. They don't. I'll spoil a little bit for you. They never explain why it's unjustified. They just say it's unjustified and that they're going to spend a bunch of money on a bunch of different things. This is another one of that's like this whole pamphlet. How many pages is this? It's a
67 pages.
Well, it's I don't know about all the pages then, because from what I read, though, it was all just spending. I never saw one. I didn't see anything in here that said it was going to cut spending for anything.
Nope. Like this one, advanced nation-building infrastructure projects through the recently doubled Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program from $5 to $10 billion. Build the Arctic economy with more ports, highways, railways, and energy infrastructure with a focus on dual-use infrastructure that grows our economy, reinforces our partnership with indigenous communities, and secures our sovereignty. An east-west electricity grid, which means everybody will be hooked up to the same grid, and when they want to shut your power off, everybody gets shut off, or if it goes down, everybody's down. Wait, let's see. Make rural and small communities more affordable through investing an additional $250 million in the Rural Transit Solutions Fund. So yeah, it is literally just a bunch of like you said, Brandon. It's literally how much money can we spend? And again, I harken back to the HSE boot camp that I just took part in. And I had two guys from Quebec, or Toronto, I don't remember where they were from, down here. And we were out doing like some kind of exercise looking at machine guarding and stuff. And so myself and one of the other HSE guys that I work with and those two Canadian gentlemen were walking around. And we got somewhere, and some of my other coworkers came over. And one of them said, I'd love to move to Canada, but except for I don't like the cold. And she goes like, you guys got it made. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, it's Friday. We just got paid today. And he goes, half my check is gone in taxes. And she just kind of got this look on her face. She's like, well, you have free health care. He goes, it ain't free. That's where all my friggin' taxes are going. Dude, it took so much of me not to start clapping and like jumping up and down like, thank God. He goes, listen, every country has its goods and its bads. He goes, we were great until, I think he said, till like 2014. He goes, it's just downhill from there. Like after 2014, probably about time Trudeau stepped in and like started all these policies, he goes, it has gotten really freaking bad in Canada and taxed to no end.
It's like when you talk about socialism, especially, Bernie Sanders, he loves to talk about this country was socialist and they are so good, and that country, Cuba's socialist and everyone can read. But
yeah,
no,
they can't eat. But
when you ask the leaders of those European countries why they're so successful, they'll tell you it's because we have a very unrestricted economy. It's like, yeah, sure, we have social safety nets, but we have a very homogenous population. People aren't trying to abuse our systems. And we have a very open economy for business and trade. So yeah, our country does well, but it's not because we're socialist. Our countries are doing well because of our capitalist features. We just happen to have socialist safety nets.
Yeah, and it's a thing too, like their country probably, maybe, I'm just a theory or just me thinking out loud. They maybe didn't build their welfare system or their social safety nets to be dependent on government like ours is. Ours is literally designed to keep people addicted to the government welfare, because when you have that, you have people who will continue voting for you and pushing for more socialist programs and buying all the stupidity that comes out of their mouths. I mean, that's what our stuff's set up for. It's not set up for, in case, here's a little something just in case you fall in hard times, but you got this time frame and you got to get back out to work or whatever. And then we're going to let business run their business the way they need to and all. No. Over here, everything's total control, or trying to get as many people addicted to government handouts as possible. And that, just that in and of itself is something that's the biggest glaring difference. Maybe those countries are like, we don't want people addicted to government money. We're just doing this to try to help them out. But after a while, they got to get to work. And here it's like, oh, you came into the country illegally, you want $25,000? Cool. And, and these cities were like, we'll be what do they call it? Like an asylum, these for illegal immigrants. And then they're like, hey, we can't afford this anymore. We're having problems. We're gonna have to figure something out. But yeah, I just feel like our systems are over here, and I believe LBJ even kind of said that this is the way they were going to secure the black and the minority votes by, and I think he also called them uppity N-words to get them in check by creating this welfare system. But yeah, our government has done it in a way to have people dependent on them, and other countries may not necessarily do that same thing.
Yeah, no, and it's a big reason. I think we talked about this last week, and you feel free to fact check me on any of this, but I'm pretty sure that immigrants, I'm pretty sure illegal and illegal, but specifically ones who undocumented, that's how I'll say it, undocumented immigrants, I'm pretty sure they are more employed per capita than the U.S. population, and they commit less crime than per capita than the rest of the U.S. population. The problem is they are on all of our social benefit programs. Like, even if they have a job, that doesn't mean they're not going to get Medicaid. That doesn't mean they're not going to get food stamps and SNAP benefits, housing benefits,
free college,
schooling, or K through 12 for their kids too. So they're on all of these different programs, and that is a net negative. Like when you add up all the things, even though they do pay some taxes, I think it's like $150 billion is how much it ends up costing the taxpayers through immigration. And those are based on old numbers. So, that has nothing to do with how many Biden has imported when he was president. So, again, that's where the whole thing, when you have, your socialist programs only work if they're not constantly being drawn on all the time. They have to be for people who actually just need to rebound. And the Canadians, they haven't figured that out either.
Well, and I'll say this too. I know companies that have hurting for work. They hire Spanish-speaking only individuals. And then some of these companies choose to do this. But then you have to go around all your signage. You have to replace all the signage into place that's bilingual. Any safety documentation, anything that has to do with forklifts or tugger, anything that has to do with safety, and all has to change to bilingual. So now you're hiring people, you have to hire translators, you have to do it. So now, again, they're not forced to do it, I don't think. They do it on their own. And then they end up forking out a lot of money just to accommodate people who can't speak any English. And when this first started happening where I work, I was like, okay, you got people in these jobs that can only speak Spanish. How are the people who are training them supposed to talk to them and guide them through the training process? Because we have no paperwork in Spanish. So we're worried about quality. We're worried about safety. How are we supposed to communicate with these people if they're doing something wrong and guide them through the training process when you can't talk to them? You have to pull one person out of the area somewhere close and get them over there to translate for you while you're training this person. And it was just like, what are we doing? Like, nobody was prepared. You want to hire Spanish-speaking only? Be my guest. But at least prepare. There was no preparation. It was just like an afterthought. And it's like, hey, we got these issues. Okay, why haven't you addressed them yet? There's no documents out there. There's nothing. Everything is in English. It'd be the same thing if you brought in a bunch of people from France and none of them knew English. You're like, we're going to hire a bunch of French people. Okay, how do you propose we educate them on and train them how to do their job? Oh, you didn't think that out. Oh, well, you probably should have done that first. But it's just this constant playing catch-up. Drives me insane. But, yeah, again, I'm not trying to pick on Spanish-speaking people or whatever. I'm not trying to pick on them. That's not why I'm saying this. I'm just saying we do these things, and then we can't communicate. It's like, okay, what exactly are we doing here right now? That kind of crap just absolutely drives me nuts. But it's whatever. I just wish that people could. I wish people in this country didn't feel the need to be like they were going to be, thought lesser of because they decide not to virtue signal, especially with, again, creating these and afraid to say, What are we doing giving these people $25,000 debit cards as soon as they hit the soil? What are we doing here? And a lot of people weren't saying anything. It wasn't, especially like in New York City, it wasn't until they told kids to stay home from school a couple days because they had to put a bunch of illegal immigrants into the school building to house them for a day or two before they dispersed them out. And then the parents got really ticked off and started like, this is BS. And they're out there screaming and hollering. It's like, none of you guys thought of this before now? None of you, your mayor was out here bragging about what they were going to do, and none of you got mad until some arm of the government, the school buildings, got loaded up with people, and your kids had to stay home. Then you get mad. It's like you should have been mad way before this, and if you were mad about it, you should have spoken up and not been afraid that, oh, I'm going to lose friends over this. Well, if your friends are that dumb, maybe you shouldn't be friends with them. I don't know. Maybe that's a little harsh. But God, at some point, grow spine, and speak up a little bit. Especially if your city's being over, and you're the one going to pay that debt, or your mayor or your governor has to beg for federal funds to replenish the money you're doling out, which means they're printing it, and it's going to cause more inflation. But no, you're too afraid to go against your other liberal friends and have a different viewpoint on something and maybe express your frustration with the situation. No, you'll just shut up and just stay inside and not say anything bad. It's like,
no, I like your point a lot there, that the people who handled immigration, the ones freaking out the most were the ones who were openly declaring they were sanctuary cities.
Yes.
Like and then all of a sudden they start busing migrants there, and whoa, we have way too many migrants now. And the people in Texas were like, this is what we've been saying the whole time.
Yeah. Morons.
So I want to get back to this
yeah.
Mark Carney-led government. So on page 5 to 6, it's talking about reinforcing the Canadian Broadcasting Radio Canada, protecting Canadian voices. In this time of crisis, it's just so funny because they're not at war. They're just like, we're leveling, in theory, we're leveling the playing field on business taxes for our own people to combat their taxes on their people. And this is a time of crisis, John. A time of crisis, I tell you.
A self-induced crisis, might I add.
Well, I mean, again, I'm not going to say I'm an expert in it, but if us putting taxes on our own people, like putting our own taxes on our own citizens, causes a time of crisis in Canada, then maybe they were taking advantage of us in some way. I'm not certain, but it would almost feel like the jig's up a little bit if, us putting taxes on our own businesses is the time of crisis. But if they want to protecting Canada means protecting our culture, our journalism, and our perspectives. The Americans have threatened our sovereignty and issued inflammatory statements about our economy. We need to be able to tell a story that fights back. So we mentioned that earlier. My favorite part in here is on page 6, fully equipping them to combat disinformation so that Canadians have a news source they know and trust. Wow. Thanks, Canada.
I love how they're going to enshrine and protect the CBC and Radio Canada.
How about you let it do its own journaling and let its merits handle the free market of ideas and information? Crazy thought, I know, for these Canadians. A lot of crazy thoughts for these Canadians tonight. But just another one is that maybe let your own radio, and America does the same thing with NPR.
Yep.
So we're not much better. But at least, in America, there's there's one actual side. I don't know if it's happened or if they backed off again, but they were talking about stopping all NPR funding. I mean, things in the Trump administration, they get popped up, they get brought up, but then they never report on whether or not they get done. But yeah, that's another gem is strengthening the national broadcasting service to support Quebec's unique culture, which is at the heart of national identity.
Yeah, and real quick to add to your thing, the St. Louis Zoo and the Missouri Botanical Garden announced that they are losing about $900,000 in federal funding, citing the Trump administration cut. So, yeah, there's apparently some of these institutions or these little places that people can visit are going to lose some some funding, and I'm like, you guys get an awful lot of tax money for the zoo as well from people in St. Louis.
Also, I think St. Louis is one of the only major zoos that is free.
Yeah, they don't charge. They don't charge an entrance fee to get into the zoo.
No, which is, I mean, like, again, as someone who's a new parent, I think that's kind of cool. I took my daughter to the zoo. She's 7 months old. She had no idea what was going on, but I took her anyway. Took her for some pictures and hung out. But, like, if they didn't make it free, that just means it had to compete with everything else. Like, we don't subsidize laser tag. We don't subsidize the bowling alleys.
No.
I mean, it's, you know?
Yeah,
so
no.
I mean, I get it's a nonprofit, but it employs a bunch of people, and people spend their time at the zoo versus spending time at the aquarium, which costs money, which is probably subsidized in some way too. But the aquarium does cost money to go into. You know how many people are going to the zoo versus the aquarium because the aquarium costs money? I mean, it's just not fair for other forms of entertainment and business.
Right.
I mean, it's a neat, again, I think it's a neat service. And if we're going to cut funding, I'm not going to say start with the zoo, but what is the government doing running a zoo in the first place?
Yeah, I got to see where now I'm interested to see where, let's see. Well, trying to find where the funding was coming from, and I just got a bunch of general revenue funds. That's not what I'm asking for. I guess I can look up City of St. Louis and no. 36% of city general fund revenues comes from an earnings tax. That's the most of the pie.
Is the income tax?
Their earnings tax. And then 14% is property tax, 10% utilities tax, 12% fees and fines. But yeah, 36% is an earnings tax. So is that, we're getting way off base here. I need to stop. But it keeps, because I bring it back to the local area, or kind of local. Well, it's local to you. You live pretty dang close to St. Louis City, so
was there last Wednesday.
I just wonder, what were you doing in St. Louis on Wednesday?
I was at the zoo.
Oh yeah,
maybe that was the week before. I don't know.
Sorry, I'm off base.
One of those days.
I had my days mixed up. I thought you went to the Blues game and I was going to murder you, but that was on Thursday night. Never mind. Let's get back to business. My coworker got to go see that 7-2 slaughter Thursday night.
I have customers at the restaurant that are going to the game on Thursday, and I'm pretty jealous. But not when I found out how much they paid. Yeah. It was like $1,000 a ticket. And I'm sure he's not sitting in the nosebleeds, but
no, up top, like they released a few tickets before Game 3, and they were like 170 a piece. So they were, for playoff tickets, somewhat reasonable.
That is reasonable.
I almost got to go. She bought 3 tickets before the season ended, and then she saw the game start time and didn't think her step-siblings were going to be allowed to go. So she's like, do you want to go if they can't go? And I was like, that is the dumbest question you've ever asked me. The only thing I have to do is tell my boss I won't be here tomorrow. And then she messaged me later, and she's like, my mom's actually going to let him go. And I was like, my wife is like, that's the most disappointed I've been in a while, especially that butt kicking they handed out. Anyway, I got to stop. I got to get back on track.
We got to save 5 minutes at the end of the show to talk about the hockey games, though, because I've been watching all of them. I love it. But anyway, just more, give a pay raise to, what is this? Rebuild the Canadian Armed Forces. For what? I mean, I figured that Canada just, I think they have like 60 fighter jets in their arsenal, something because they were going to donate some fighter jets to Ukraine, and they had they were going to give them 5 because they only have 60 in their whole fleet or something crazy. But that's because they don't ever have to worry about. I mean, can't even remember the last time Canada's even been remotely involved in a war.
I think the last one was they had some in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Oh, did they?
Yes, they did.
As NATO troops?
I don't know. I just remember watching something on the History Channel about snipers, and I believe this Canadian sniper was in Afghanistan, and there were Taliban forces firing on some of his fellow troops. So he asked permission to put this, basically a high explosive round into his Barrett 50 cal. So these guys were behind just a cinder block wall, and they were pointing their rifles up over and just spraying. So he got permission to use this one round, put into his Barrett 50, fired into that wall roundabout where he knew those guys were standing. And so when it hit the wall, it lets off this explosive charge and just turned them into pink mist. Whoever was standing next to that spot where he hit just splatter.
Wow.
Yeah. One round from Barrett 50 cal took out I don't know how many, 3 or 4 guys standing close to that, just turned them into goop. So yeah, I just thinking about that, I was thinking about them being over there.
But anyway, it's just funny because we were talking about, dude, they just spend. It's all they know how to do is spend.
Yeah,
rearm, reinvest.
Yeah, this when 10 years ago, under a conservative government, defense spending was less than 1% of GDP. Do you remember when the left used to be so anti-war? Remember that? Remember they used to try to brag about they hated war? Now, that was unless Obama was in office. Then they were fine. But if a Republican was in office, they were really, really anti-war. In the 60s, they were anti-war. Now, they're right on board, man. Let's spend more on defense. I mean, they're just all about it. Let's go blow up some brown people. Yeah.
Well, in the Canadians' case, they want to go blow up some Russians. They want to go blow up the Ruskies. That's
true.
Their big qualm. Canada, if I had to guess, they are on the side of the brown people. Just judging by politics in America.
I mean, maybe it could be. I just know that.
I mean, again, my gut instinct tells me that Canadians are very pro-Palestinian.
I mean,
just if I had to.
Yeah, they did pin a medal on a Nazi, and the Nazis were in the Ukraine, so they have to help out the Ukrainians. So yeah, they definitely want to blow up some Ruskies.
Yeah, that's where their weapons would go. If they had a massive military-industrial complex in Canada, all their weapons would be going to Ukraine for sure, at the expense of their taxpayers. Oh, let's see what else is on here.
Probably even make up a bunch of Nazi symbol armbands for the Ukrainian soldiers to wear as they fought the Ruskies. That's how they're going to get their textile industry back up. Anyway.
Oh, man. So I'm on page 13 and 14 now. And it says, this is on 14. A Mark Carney government will strengthen Canada's food security by investing in greenhouses, hydroponics, and other controlled environment agriculture that will allow us to grow more types of food here at home. I mean, you'd be better off just getting rid of all your regulations that prohibited people from buying and selling the foods that you currently produce or have in a neighbor from the South.
Yeah, here we go.
Build more domestic capacity. Spend another $200 million. That's at the top of 15.
I like this one. Improve health services and support for women veterans' health by launching a health research study on the experience of women veterans to ensure proper data is collected so that its service delivery can capture the increase of women veterans transitioning to civilian life and ultimately improve their health outcomes. What kind? That sounds like corporate talk. This reminds me of the George Carlin things. They didn't have a negative health outcome, or he was talking about whatever you call it, politically correct speech, basically. Again, as I was talking about earlier, they are literally telling veterans that if they're really hurting, they could just put themselves in a pod and off themselves. They have euthanasia pods in Canada. So are they really going to improve their health?
No. And this is the Michael Malice tweet. He said, I didn't suspect that when Canada legalized euthanasia that the entire country would vote for doing it. That's what he said about Mark Carney being elected. That's how afraid of Mark Carney Michael Malice is.
Yeah, rightfully so, because I really wish I could understand how you could get to a point mentally where you think that is somehow moral and a caring thing to do, is because you look at people as a burden on the medical system. And so in order to not be a burden to the system, you can just off yourself. That doesn't speak kindness and goodwill and any of those other words that I could spout off here. I don't know how you can look at that and go, oh, that's the most caring thing you could do for somebody, is to offer a pod that they can lay down and just gas themselves to death, or how I'm assuming that's what it is, some kind of gas that will kill them. And that is supposed to be the most kind thing that you could do for someone who's struggling with some kind of again, a debilitating illness or some kind of injury. Like, well, we could spend a lot of money on you, or we just guilt you into killing yourself. I mean, folks, I say these things, it sounds hyperbolic. This is the progressive mindset, okay? They don't look at individuals. They look at a system. And if you are a drain on the system, you are then considered a parasite, even though the system that they have created is in fact itself parasitic. They are going to look at you as a parasite, and they're going to try to get you out of the way. If that means eugenics or euthanasia, okay, but at least the system survives. That is the least humane thing that you could hear out of someone in power, is that you're a drain on this. We just have too many people that are sick. Okay, and that's the other thing. What do they do about that? No, they don't talk about, again, I don't want government, a Canadian, U.S. government, I don't want a bunch of central planners banning certain foods or whatever. I don't want them doing that. What I don't have a problem with is actual factual health facts. Here's what, instead of eating 9 servings of grains a day because Big Ag paid for this study to tell you and set up a food pyramid. They're like, you should eat more red meat, you should eat this, and you should eat that, and leave the grains out. That's the least thing. Proteins and good carbs and stuff, that's the ones you want at the top. And the other crap we want less of. They don't do that. If they would do that, I would be fine. But they don't. Instead, everything's a systemic problem to them. Everything's treated as, we just don't spend enough money on healthcare. Well, why is everybody sick? You don't talk about that. Even back when, I don't remember if it was Barack Obama or if Bush was running for a second term or something, but you had John Kerry and a bunch of these other schmucks running. And they all had their plans for basically government-run healthcare. They mentioned diet and exercise once or twice. Pharmaceuticals, medicine, all these other things got just listed time and time again. But the healthy way of living, not hardly mentioned. So to those of you who think this might be a humane system that they're setting up, you're out of your freaking minds. You have lost all touch with reality. They care about the system. The system is, if they implement the system and too many parasites are on it, they eliminate the parasites, but they try to hold up the system because that gives them total control over a society. And people got to wrap their freaking heads around that.
So I just sent you a 56-second video on X. It's a video of the new Canadian Prime Minister talking about what the big issue on everyone's mind, really, in 2025, which is climate change. So
let me pull it up. And as soon as I blow it up, it's going to play. So,
yeah.
Oh, wow. It actually didn't. Turn me into a liar. Here we go.
You demanded action, and now it's time for the financial sector to deliver. To reach net zero, every country, every company, every bank, every investor, every pension fund around the world will need to make some big changes. In the run-up to COP26 in Glasgow, we have an enormous opportunity to bring climate change into the heart of every financial decision. And our plan will manage the risks from climate change while helping to seize the opportunities from a newer, greener economy. The UK has been at the forefront of innovation for centuries, brimming with ingenuity and a can-do spirit. It also houses the world's largest financial system. And by bringing them together, we can deliver the net zero world that you've demanded and that our future generations deserve. The world's coming to Glasgow. Let's reshape finance for a sustainable world.
I love how he said the UK is like at the forefront of this. Like the UK doesn't produce anything good anymore. They used to have somewhat of an industry. They don't have squat. Their economy sucks, but they have a really big bank. So, let's get some of that money.
They have open immigration policies too. All that diversity you'd think would start generating some economic output. They're so green and so diverse, John. I'm shocked their economy's not booming. It should be off the chains with all that diversity and net zero, with the newer, greener economy. I love that. The newer, greener economy. Like, when has a new economy been something good? Like, oh, we're reshaping the economy, guys. It's going to be better than ever. Like, that never works out, ever. Just on that, if someone says we're going to change the economy of things, that's never good. Never good.
The thing is these guys are such smooth talkers. Like, if you're an uneducated fool, you're just wandering around and just taking what this guy says as the gospel. Like, he's a pretty smooth talker. They lay it out. They make it sound really, really good. That rhetoric and talk is for people who don't know how to think for themselves. That's all it is, folks. They don't know. They couldn't find their butt with both hands, a flashlight, and a map. And that's who that guy's talking to. And if you might take that as an insult, and that's fine, you might want to take a look in the mirror. Because if you're just taking whatever this guy says as the truth, and you don't look up the UK's economy and some of the stories coming out from, these independent media types, and so you might want to try to call them far right. They're not. They're just unbiased, and they're saying, here's what's going on in the UK. Then, again, you get what you elect. You get the government you deserve when you elect libtards like Mr. Mark. We got to figure out a nickname for this guy. I don't know if we want to call him
just Carnival Mike or Carnival Mark.
Yeah,
That's
Carnival Mark. There we go. Yeah. Or we just call him Carney Mark because he's weird. He says weird things, and you're in a room with him, and you're like, oh, wow. What? I mean, normal people are like, oh, Carney. He's Carney Mike. Okay, that explains it. He's done a lot of hard drugs and drinking copious amounts of hard whiskey, and he's pickled his brain and his liver, and now he got elected into a high government office. Like, good for that guy, I guess.
He kind of looks like if George Bush and John Kerry fused. That's who he looks like in the face.
He is a Bush Kerry love child.
Yes, that's what he looks like, for sure.
And he real quick, just one of these things that I see in people, don't a lot of these people look like they're constipated, like nonstop? They always look constipated. Like we should be sending them barrels, drums of Miralax. Like, dude, take a poop, you'll feel better. But they always look constipated. Hey, your mic's not on.
He's got like the lines next to his eyebrows.
Oh yeah, the furrowed
total
brow.
Grunt. Yeah, total grunt. Like yeah.
He's trying to Biden and poop his pants, but he can't because he needs to take his Miralax.
But
God.
it's some of the like he's kind of I don't know. I haven't seen anything about him, but
I don't want.
You can see where he gives you like the Barack Obama vibes, like kind of like what you were saying, where like if all you did was watch the news to try to figure out your politics, you probably would really like the guy. Because like you said, if you just took what he said at face value and never looked into anything he said, you'd be like, wow, this guy might be the smartest guy ever. That's why Barack Obama got elected twice, is because a bunch of young people, well, first of all, the Republicans tarnished their name with George W. Bush. So then Barack Obama comes in, and he's just the smoothest talker on the planet. Like, gave Bill Clinton a real run for his money for smoothest president ever. And just word saladed his way through 8 years of bad policy. And lying, of course, but that's a given. Yeah, he lied through a lot of it. But then when he wasn't lying, he was just smoothly telling you the dumbest policy. Like when he like every time you listen to him talk about Obamacare in retrospect, you're like, did we believe you when you said this? Like when you said you get to keep your doctor, your rates won't go up, this and that. Like we believed you when you said that? Because in retrospect, if any of us would have taken 10 seconds to think about it, you brought in a bunch of healthcare insurance people to write the legislation on reforming the healthcare industry. So
the very people he said were awful people. These insurance companies are raking people over the coals and they're horrible people. And then he brings them in to write the legislation. That's like a comedy skit right there.
Yeah.
And people are just
hilarious.
like, well, I brought that up to people who were all for it. And they're like, well, he doesn't know everything about insurance, so he had to bring him in. I was like, did he? They were so evil. That would be like somebody being like, okay, you could invite someone in to come in and talk to you about firearm safety, okay? And you're like, so you can, and I want the best in firearm safety possible, or just firearms altogether, right? And you're like, well, there's Ron Paul, and there's Thomas Massey, and there's Hillary Clinton. Now, I want the best in freedom for firearms, and I want an open marketplace. I want to ease restrictions on purchasing firearms. And so I'm always talking about Hillary Clinton wanting to take away my guns, wanting to rid people of firearms. But I also want to make rules to make firearms more accessible and cheaper. So who do I bring in to help write the rules? I'm going to bring in Hillary Clinton. Everybody would go, dude, did you lose your mind? You just talked smack about her 2 weeks. Like, no, listen, but she really knows her stuff. And I'm ignorant of this. So I had to bring in an expert. They're like, if Thomas Massey's right there, like, he doesn't know as much as she does.
We're gonna tackle the military-industrial complex, and to do so, we're gonna bring in Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney. Yes. And Benjamin Netanyahu, and we're really going to curb the military-industrial complex with those guys.
They're like
at the helm.
But Scott Horton's right there, like he doesn't know the military as well as Dick Cheney and these guys.
He's never been. He's never been to the military.
He's never been in the army.
He's never been in the armed forces.
Yeah,
never been. He has no opinion.
That's right. Yeah, he
I'm
wasn't
not saying
there.
You can't talk about it, but come on, you can't talk about it.
You can't talk smack about the military unless you've been in the military. Yeah, you are right. That would be the same thing. There's numerous examples that we could bring up.
We could finish the show with examples.
But that's what they do. That's what government does. And
we're gonna bring in Ronald McDonald to focus on heart health.
Yeah, because you're gonna make a healthy Big Mac. Like, sure you are, dude. But that's the thing. What you just said, Brandon. We could finish the show with examples of this because this is what government does all the time. And then all these non-thinking people out here get mad at who? The corporations, the very ones that your favorite government official opened the door and said, "Come on in and help us write this." Come on. I mean, at some point, I know I'm asking for a whole lot here, and I get that. But at some point, God, you got to wake up at some point and go, wow, I really should have thought that one out a little better. It seemed that the wool was pulled over my eyes. Like, dude, they brought a whole truckload of sheep in and piled it on your eyes. Like, and then they shoved cotton in your ears and then cotton up your nose so you couldn't see it, you couldn't hear the BS, and you couldn't smell it either. So, again, I know I'm supposed to love everyone equally. I'm supposed to just treat everyone equally. These people out here that spew this nonsense and keep buying into it, again, just like the other day, I think it was last week, I brought up that article where the U.S. wasn't going to fund this UN, food to all those countries, the ones that we've been somehow involved in a war in, right? Either directly or by proxy. But none of them talked about how horrible the foreign policy is. But now they're upset that people aren't getting food. Like, hey, if you didn't blow their buildings to smithereen and kill a bunch of their kids and stuff, maybe you wouldn't have to send them so much food because you destroyed their crops, you destroyed everything around. Maybe you wouldn't have to send them food if they could freaking grow it on their own. But they don't. They get upset on the back end of the food funding. But what has caused this? Oh, I don't know. Can't see nothing. I don't hear. Duh. And just walk around with a neutral zone around their head. And that crap gets infuriating after a while. And then I have trouble having a serious conversation with them because I know in my heart of hearts that whatever I say to them isn't registering upstairs. Like, the elevator is not going to the top floor. It is not receiving cargo. I should just not talk anymore. I should just talk about the weather or sports, something that we maybe can see eye to eye on. But I can't talk to you about how you shouldn't just willy-nilly go around the world and blow people up because of what they have resources we might want or something, or because some leader in another country says we must do this. I have problems feeling pity for those people and trying to bring them around to a more like a peaceful, more prosperous way of thinking, more freedom-minded. After a while, I'm just like, whatever, I give up.
So, Trump's first 100 days in office. You want to give him a letter grade?
Literally the only thing I can say he's done. Now, again, we could parse this a little bit. The amount of people just coming across the borders willy-nilly is way down. That's about the only positive thing I can say. So, in interest of, let's see, economic policy, foreign policy, a little domestic policy, he's still going to have to get a D or a D minus. I'm not going to fail him because immigration-wise, the amount of people flowing across the border has been stemmed tremendously. Everything else, it sucks. It freaking sucks.
See, I'm even going to give him a C minus on immigration because he promised immediate mass deportations. That's what he promised.
True
and there's
that.
A bunch of people still on our collecting, government subsidies from government handouts. So I'm going to give him a C minus on immigration. The only reason I'm not going to give him an F and a hard F is because I will caveat with comparing him to the presidents of the last 25 years. I would say he still might. I mean, he's a warmongering, buffoon on both economic policy and foreign policy, and still might be the best president of the last 25 years. So I guess I'll only give him a. It is just, it's so frustrating.
Because he doesn't just like, I guess there were plans to maybe strike Iran, and he backed off from that, and it's like, let's hold up a little bit. Where other presidents might have just went, George Bush would have been like, yeah, do it now.
Oh, if the climate was the way it is now, we for sure would have done it.
So,
yeah.
Yes, you are correct. He did back off on that a little bit, but the whole thing with Israel, Palestine, he hasn't done anything with Ukraine, Russia. The only thing he's done is pump the brakes a little bit on Iran, which I'm fine with. I hope they never do anything with that country except try to patch things up and get along and trade freely. I'm cool with that. But yeah, the foreign policy, yeah, you're right. It still sucks. Economic policy, you go ahead with that one because I think that's awful too.
I just mean he increased taxes on American businesses. It temporarily crushed the economy, and he acts like it was some big successful win. So, I mean, I haven't heard of anything positive of China changing course. And then Donald Trump announced last week that he's like, well, actually, we're going to take a little softer stance on China now. So, I mean, maybe you just realize that you tried and it is not working, or I don't know what his new deal is with the Chinese tariffs. But another interesting point I want to make before the end of the show is that tensions with India and Pakistan are reaching a pretty major boiling point. I know we sell billions of dollars worth of arms to India, or at least hundreds of millions of dollars worth of arms to India. I know that we service the F-16 jets in Pakistan at a cost of about $400 million, and we provide $200 million in USAID money to the Indian government. So if you're wondering if we fund both sides of this upcoming, if that blows into a full-scale war, or at least a minor war on the border there in Kashmir between India and Pakistan, we are funding the governments on both sides for sure, and the arms on at least part of both sides. Now, another small caveat is that when we are servicing the F-16 jets in Pakistan, part of the agreement is that they wouldn't use them in a war against India, but whenever they decide they want to use those jets against India, we've still been servicing them for $400 million. And if they decide they're going to go against that policy, then what are we going to do? Start a war with Pakistan because we were servicing their F-16 fighter jets that we sold them? Probably not.
Yeah, I didn't get to listen to the whole thing today. I was listening to a little bit of Judge Napolitano's podcast, Judging Freedom. He had Scott Ritter on, and they brought up something that I had not heard, that the people in Israel are split 50-50. They are on the verge of a civil war in that country because of the foreign policy of that government. And Netanyahu is strictly staying in power because once he goes out of power, there's a good chance he's going to prison because he's been found guilty of war crimes and all these other things. So the people are split down the middle, and they are on the verge of a civil war in Israel. And I had not heard that before. But they were bringing up things that they had read and saw. That's the first I'd heard of that. I got to look into that. I didn't have a chance because I heard it this afternoon. Yeah, apparently there's 50% of the Israeli population is not fond of Netanyahu and does not like the course that he's taking.
So you're telling me half of Israel is anti-Semitic?
It seems so.
You're telling me there are a bunch of anti-Semites over in Israel?
Against themselves.
The Jews?
Yeah,
the Jews are anti-Semitic?
Self-hating Jews. Yeah, they're self-hating Jews.
What? That's crazy, John.
I know. Crazy. Listen, I just want to end the show with something funny that I saw. People will not find this funny. Some people won't find it funny. I found it hilarious. Theo Vaughn, a comedian, had Bert Kreischer on with him, and I saw a clip where they said something. Bert Kreischer said something about getting a Jewish. Hold on, getting a Jewish person to dig something dirty out of the back of the oven, and Theo Vaughn's like, Jews invented the self cleaning oven. They're like, we're not falling for that again, bro. I lost it. It's not okay, but it is funny. It's funny. I love dark humor. I couldn't stop from laughing.
Theo's a riot.
He is.
I love Theo Vaughn. But
right.
Anyway, what's your Game 5 prediction for the Blues?
I think I probably shouldn't open my mouth and jinx them. I believe that we have worn them down by finishing checks like mad, beating the absolute snot out of them on the boards. I think we've mentally dominated Connor Hellebuck, and I believe it will be a close win, and then they're going to come home and seal the deal in St. Louis in Game 6 and go on to the next round. That's how I see it. I think we're in Hellebuck's head. I think we've knocked the snot out of their, like Scheifele and Kyle Connor and some of those. We've absolutely smashed them into the boards. I think we've worn them down mentally and physically. And I say they, I haven't done anything, but they have beaten the snot out of them, and I look for them to clinch this in 6 games. I think they go in, steal one in Winnipeg. They come home and win it at home in Game 6, and we carry on to see who we play next.
Oh, yeah. I definitely think win or lose Game 5, we win Game 6. So if we lose Game 5, I think we're going to force Game 7. If not, I think we're going to win it at home. But I'm with you. I think it's going to be 3-2. I think we're going to get a 3-1 lead, give up a goal, go down 3-2, and we're going to hold on to that lead behind Bennington. He's going to stand on his head, 31 saves on 33 shot attempts, and we're going to win by 3-2.
That sounds like a very sound prediction. I'm fine with that. I just it's funny because I go on to like Facebook and I look at posts about that series, and the Jets fans were like really, really like, oh, we're gonna hammer them, we're gonna crush them. They stand no chance, and now they're like screaming at Hellebuck, their goaltender, please don't put him in anymore. He sucks. He's going back to his old ways of playing good in the regular season and falling apart in the during the playoffs. This guy's horrible. Why won't the coach pull him and put the other goaltender in? I have no real stake in it. I've been a hockey fan for 25 years. I love the game. And I don't know. Again, it doesn't affect anything in my life. The outcome of my life is not affected by what the Blues do, right? I have no business interest. I'm not a shareholder, anything. But out of all the sports in general, if I want to just take a break from reality and watch a sport, hockey is it for me. I absolutely love hockey. I love the intensity. I love just everything, the fighting, just all that stuff. The speed of the game, like when you go watch it live, it's so fun because you're sitting on the edge of your seat. It's just a blast to watch. So yeah, my one escape from reality as far as sports goes, if I want to just take a break from all the stupidity, is I don't even care if it's not a Blues game. If I can just watch a hockey game, as long as it's not the Blackhawks or the Avalanche. If it's like an Eastern Conference team that I don't really care about, I kind of like the Devils a little bit. I do like New Jersey. I kind of root for them as long as they're not playing the Blues. I'll just sit back and watch hockey over like a TV show, because I don't hardly watch any TV shows at all. If I have the TV going, I'm on YouTube watching stuff on like astrophysics or World War I or World War II or something historical or science-based. So, yeah, hockey's like the one thing I go to just like, okay, I don't want to talk about any of this crap. I don't want to listen to it. I just want to watch grown men paste each other against the boards and fire frozen rubber objects at a net, and then possibly seeing somebody get the snot punched down of them or something like that. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
All right, folks. Well, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Again, thanks to all of you who watch on YouTube, Rumble, listen on any almost any podcast app, or at molibertyradio.us. And we'll see you next Tuesday for another edition of Missouri Legislative Review with Tom and Catherine. But that'll be right back